Our next storyteller is she is leaving her job as development director at Cope Environmental Center. Kaitlyn, come up here. Kaitlyn Blansett. Kaitlyn has the rare, indeed unique honor of being our first ever repeat storyteller at Warp Woof. So this is an encore performance for Kaitlyn. It is also lamentably a swan song for Kaitlyn because she just she's moving to DC. She's leaving Richmond. How do y'all feel about that? No. We all feel bad about it, don't we? I mean, when you think about Kaitlyn leaving Richmond, if you feel hurt or wounded, can you just raise your hand right now? Can you just raise your hand right now? So part of the reason that we're having Kaitlyn back is because she tells a great story, but part of the reason is that we want to give her a lot of guilt about leaving. So right now, I would just like people to call out feelings that you have about Kaitlyn leaving. Can I hear some? How could you do that to us? Just one. I didn't even hear that one. Anybody else? How do you feel about Kaitlyn leaving? Sad? What about wounded? Yeah, betrayed? Anybody got betrayed? Okay. Yes, there's a betrayed back there. Thank you. So I thought that the best thing we could do is try to collectively shame Kaitlyn about her departure. So you're welcome. You're welcome. And with that introduction, I think I'm going to let you tell a story.
I feel the love. I feel the love in the two people that have threatened to slash my tires so that I can't leave this town. They say that and I'm always like, thank you. Please don't. I just got a new car and it's very expensive. Most people are thrilled for me. I don't know who said that, but thank you. I'm thrilled for me too. But I will definitely, now's not the time for this, and I'm not even leaving right now, but I'll definitely miss Richmond, and there are a lot of things going on that are so cool and that I've had the honor to be a part of in the past 3 years, so I don't know. That's not what this is about. I'm telling a story. So I'm going to take us to church after that last story. So my story is entitled Over My Cold Dead Hamster. Miscommunication, one of the definitions of it is a failure to communicate adequately, and I need you to keep that definition in mind as I'm telling my story, because there's not one specific giant miscommunication that caused this event to happen, but a series of failures to communicate adequately that landed me in the situation that I was in. I want to start by saying this. I had a really good childhood. It was full of love, it was full of support, and it was full of pets. That's right, I'm talking about my pets again. I had literally any pet I wanted, except a cat, because my dad was allergic. So I got every pet I wanted. I had guinea pigs, I had rats, I had dwarf hamsters, I had mice, I even had a lizard at one point. And all of these animals had one thing in common. They all died unexpectedly in the winter when the ground is frozen. So I don't know how much you know about guinea pig ownership, but it's not exactly the type of animal you can flush down the toilet, right? So as these rodents would die, we would have to put them in our freezer until the ground thawed and we could bury them. And don't worry, it wasn't weird. Every spring, we would always remember to forget to bury the rodents in the freezer. So my childhood freezer was full of my dead pets the way other kids' freezers were full of Gordon's fish sticks and pizza rolls. It made for some really interesting conversation over dinner with guests. And I tell you this first part of the story to let you in on two things. One, my love for animals, and two, the fact that for all of the animals I had an equal but opposite amount of luck with them and with keeping them alive. The second part to my story is also about my childhood. I grew up in a religious home, and when you grow up in a religious home, there are some things that you just don't talk about, right? And when you don't talk about things, that leads to a lot of miscommunications. So one of the subjects that this happened to me with was sex. See, I can't even say it. We did not talk about this subject in my family at all. I was very, very uneducated and unaware as a child. So everything that I learned about that subject, I learned from my friends' older sisters and from the books my parents would leave me on my bed. And I learned a lot from my friends' older sisters. Like, I learned from Meredith's older sister, who told her that male genitalia is shaped like 2 carrots and a grape. Looking back, I either misunderstood, Meredith had misheard, or her sister had miscounted the carrots and the grapes, or had been with a partner with an abnormal structure. I don't know. But this was the kind of information I was receiving, and I was in no place to argue with its validity. Because the only education I had other than that were these books my parents left me, and with titles like "And the Bride Wore White" or "How I Kissed Dating Goodbye," you weren't exactly getting diagrams. So all of this leads to the fact that I can now say this statement. I think my first sexual encounter was with a hamster. Yeah, let that sink in. Yeah, it wasn't intentional, and it wasn't like weird or gross on my part. It was a belly rub that went a little too far south, okay? He squealed and recoiled like every man has since. And I got the sinking feeling that I had done something wrong. So I put Thunder back in his cage and decided to reflect on my feelings. Now, there's a stereotype with Catholics that they've really cornered the market on guilt. Well, Methodists have perfected shame. And shame was all I felt for the next 2 days, but it eventually wore off. And then the 3rd day came. And just like Jesus rose from the grave on the 3rd day, in an equal but opposite way, Thunder descended into death on the 3rd day. I went to check his cage, and he had died. I don't know how it happened. I don't know what happened. From my side of the story, all I know is that I touched my hamster's penis, and 3 days later it died. And so that was the 3rd thing I ever learned about sex. I don't know if the story has a moral or a lesson, or if it's just this vivid memory I have from my childhood that I needed to share on a stage. All I know is that this experience, my parents could not have invented a better reason to stay abstinent than this experience that happened to me, because, you know, because of that. Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.